Thank you and good morning. I'll introduce you to my colleague, if someone will flip the screen, to Dan Gisolfi. We're going to be doing a live demonstration, basically, of a technology called Blue Spruce. It's not a product. It's basically a very early platform that we built for collaboration. One of the themes of this whole session has been one of communication, collaboration, reaching beyond, and for that matter, going from the desktop to the mobile. And that's really exactly what we're trying to do in Blue Spruce. So Dan, can you hear us?
I can. Good morning.
So Dan actually works out of his house in upstate New York, and clearly we're doing all this live. Video's coming in at about 24 frames a second. Without showing you too much, Dan, why don't we advance forward into the first slide? Maybe. So first thing you'll see here is I didn't do a thing, and Dan and I basically can interact on the same set of slides in this case. This is an application that we wrote called Blue Theater. And Blue Theater just allows us to share documents. Very simply, documents and faces. So if we really want to have just a really small meeting, show off some slides, here we are. So let's give you a little background to myself and Dan and basically our whole organization. We were put in place in about late 95, actually 94. It was part of the internet focus inside of IBM. And it just so happens our group actually worked with Sun on Java. And we really basically built Java up, not only in the industry, but also clearly within IBM and with BEA and others. When you start looking at things, one of the other things that we've done, and done in a very big way out of my group, is focused on open source. One of the things you're seeing here is we've basically taken a lot of pieces of open source and actually built value-add layers on top of them. And one of the things that you're looking at is basically some of the things and innovations that have come out of us. So without going any further into this, let's move forward. Okay, so every single person here has their own definition of what the web is. Okay, and let's just start with Tim Berners-Lee and HTML and CERN and hypertext. Okay, it was all about publishing information. Okay, the web in a lot of cases is still about publishing information, whether you go to an e-commerce site or you're basically just going and reading your favorite newspaper. Okay, what's happened in basically circa 2001 is a very different type of programming using DHTML, which was a standard from the late 90s, and JavaScript and style sheets, etc. came out, got coined Ajax, and here we started looking at how to move forward. Next thing that started happening is once I actually could build much more creative type user interfaces, you started to seeing people bring in information from different internet domains, and they clearly call it mashups. Mashups come in two variants. One of them is dynamic, which you can just create the mashup on the fly, and the other one is very static, where some programmer has actually done it for you. Now, as we've started to look at this, what's really been happening is the platform of choice in the web for most people has become the web browser. This, started back, if you want to go all the way back to Mosaic, NCSA Mosaic, but clearly as you start looking at Safari, Internet Explorer, Firefox, and others, in that matter Chrome, you're looking basically at the path, and your browser is really your platform. So with all that said our group did a lot of work on internet technologies, standards, etc., as I said before, and we actually created the mashup maker inside of IBM. One of the big things that we had was we created this dynamic mashup maker. It was called QED. And QED allowed simultaneously for people to build things, but one of the key requirements that came out of working with customers was they needed help really understanding how to wire basically back and forth all the widgets. And we didn't have any way of doing it. So we put on the sidewall basically saying, this is an issue. We've got to somehow look at this. Let's just finish off on our mashup work. At the same token, we not only wanted to see what they were doing, because today, there's PC everywhere and many other products in that space. We also wanted to interact, change, and we also wanted to have live audio and video. And the video, in all cases, we really wanted to do is HD quality. And by the way, we all wanted to do this within the web browser. As we were doing all of these things, well, we just threw some other things on the list, a wish list, one might say, and that wish list was we need also a framework by where all internet widgets would work together. So with all that said, we started the project called Blue Spruce. And really, the fundamentals of the project are to replicate the power of face-to-face. Like Dan right now, we know exactly he's not paying too much attention to us. Oh, there he is. Okay? But the key is that you want to actually look at someone, their face, their mannerisms, watch their hands, and you can actually immediately see, you know, if they're paying attention, if they understand, etc. The other side, you also want to start thinking about what is collaboration in the future, and think about, you know, where are things converging? Because we actually have many, many different convergence. You know, as you look at, you know, the average smartphone, okay, you got a camera on the front. If you look at the Nokia N95, 6, 7, 8 series, you got the cameras on the front and back that actually will ship out video. So for us, one of the key things we were looking for, and by the way, that was a discussion yesterday in the Google keynote, was the world is moving to another paradigm, and that paradigm is the mobile. And really then you have to start thinking about how can we all interact in that space. So a lot of market drivers here, okay? Economic crisis around the world is causing people to start thinking about telepresence much more than they ever have. Okay? You can't just jump on an airplane, even though the prices are down. Okay? The other thing is that there's been a whole industry around telepresence that has developed. And, you know, a lot of vendors in it. And everyone's trying to do it just, you know, like being there discussion. And they do it in some cases with beautiful HD setups. Some of them are basically little webcams. But in essence, really what we're trying to do is all get to that same concept of replicating face-to-face communication. The other side of this really starts talking into what are the drivers and the trends that are coming through. First trend that's coming through is all about green technology. How can we basically start reducing carbon footprint that's coming out of IT? One of the big discussions that came up the other day was just think about how many watts it takes to basically drive one query, okay, in Google. So we really want to start thinking about how we basically can start looking at things in a very greener way. One of the biggest things I got to tell you is since we started this project, not only because the economy was poor, but because I can actually communicate with everyone, I've actually done many, many more conferences, or as we call them, huddles, all via Blue Spruce. The other side of this is telepresence. You no longer need telepresence rooms. Okay, you actually can get clip-on basically for your average PC that actually will broadcast HD. Okay, this one actually is a half HD camera in mine. Okay, the other side of this is let's talk about the web itself. A lot of technologies are emerging right now. Okay, and I can't guarantee you this one is actually going to fly out the door and find its way into your hands. But what I can tell you, though, is that people do need to work together in a very, very different way. And as you saw, as Dan opened up and moved the slides, we actually can start interacting. And this is a very, very simple type of operation. It's actually the simplest. Now, when you start thinking about meetings and sessions, the first thing you need to think about is there's just-in-time meetings. One might call them ad hoc meetings. Someone walks into your office or virtual office. Okay, that's one type. Then you actually can say there's another type which is more very much ad hoc because things are going to change on the fly. And really that type of meeting starts out possibly with pure IMing, could start off with a video, but then it actually might go in and actually allow you to do a VNC and take a remote control of another machine, another desktop, etc. And then basically you end up with another type of meeting, which is what we'll call a formal meeting, like this one, by the way. We call Blue Theater, where everyone can just join in. Now, the technology that we're using here, let's just take a quick jump back, is really looking at the video codecs and basically XMPP under the covers.